struggle for survive, which is known as the subsistence crisis. What was that? Subsistence crisis. An extreme situation in which the basic means of livelihoods are endangered. This is known as the subsistence crisis. So there are so many reasons for cause the subsistence crisis. First reason was that the rapid growth of population. In the year 1715, it was 23 million peoples in France, but it was increased in 1789, 28 million peoples. Second cause is that agriculture failure due to the bad weather condition, which do not keep pace with the growing population, the food grains. These are the reasons for the subsistence crisis. So what was the impact of the subsistence crisis? The major staple food of the France, the price of bread was increased. And the number two, wages of the laborers remain same. Wages of the laborers were not increased, but the major staple food of the France, these prices were the increased. This was the impact of the subsistence crisis. After that, we had studied that middle class. Who were the middle class? So among the third estate peoples, some peoples, they started to do the business with the western part of Europe with the industrial revolution, and they became the educationists, that they had owned the property, and they were even the engineers, lawyers, doctors. Okay, so they were known as the middle class peoples. Afterwards, those who challenged with the first and second estate peoples, the clergies and nobilities. Understand? They are known as the middle class peoples, and they were inspired by some important or prominent philosophers. So who were they, the philosophers? The first one was that the John Locke. Who was that? John Locke. He had written a book. The name of that book was the Two Treatises of the Government. Two Treatises of the Government. What was written in that book? The criticize of the, what was that? The divine power and the absolute right of the monarchy. Understand? He was mentioned in this book, the Two Treatises of the Government. So he was the criticized that all the power should not be rest in one person, and he was believed by the peoples the second form of the God. It was completely wrong. He was inspired, he was motivated, he was teaching the peoples. Okay, so peoples were motivated and inspired by his books. Next one was that, who was that? Next philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was written the book Social Contract. What was that? Social Contract. And he was written in his book, the Social Contract, the government should be based on the peoples and their representatives. The government should be based on the peoples and their representatives. It means that to whom peoples will elect as their leader or as their representative, he or she should be rule over them. Understand? Third one was that the Montesquieu. Who was that? Montesquieu. What he said that? Montesquieu, he had written a book that Spirit of the Laws. Spirit of the Laws, he motivated the people through his book that the power should be divided into the three parts: legislative, executive and judiciary. So at that time in the France, all the powers were rested in one person's hands. That's why he had written a book that the Spirit of the Laws, power should not be rest, in one person's hand. It should be divided into the three parts: the legislative, executive and judiciary. This is our previous topics what we had completed. So today we will see that the outbreak of the revolution in France. How the revolution was caused in France. Just you imagine that the conditions and the situations. There was an empty treasury. First, when Louis XVI became the king of France. Understand? Number two, subsistence crisis. Subsistence crisis. Number three, the increase of prices of food grains. Due to these three regions, so in the same time, the king of France, the Louis XVI, he thought that to increase the tax. So, for run the country, there is needed for money. So how without money a king cannot be rule or manage the country. That's why he was planning, he was thinking that to increase the tax. But in the same time the situation was that empty treasury. Number two, subsistence crisis. Number three, the increase the prices of the food grains, bread. Understand? So what is happening? Just you open your books and see. Louis XVI planned to increase taxes in France of the old regime. The monarch did not have the power to impose taxes according to his bill alone. So here Louis XVI planning to increase taxes. Write down. Louis XVI. But number two, king had not power to increase the tax alone. King had not power to increase the tax alone. He had to call the State General. He had to call the meeting which was known State General. State General. So here we will see that what was the State General. What was the State General? So king had no power to increase the tax. Alone. It means according to his will, he had no power. And for increase the tax, he had to call the meeting which was known as the State General. Here we will see that a State General was a political body in which the three states sent their representatives to attend the State General. What was the State General? State General was a political body. Write down this answer. State General was a political body in which three states sent their representatives. This is known as the State General. Okay. Question may arise that what is known as the State General? 2 marks question. What you will write that? State General was a political body in which 3 states sent their representatives. Okay. So from the first state, some selective representatives, from the second state, selective representatives, and from the third state, the selective representatives, they will attend in the State General meeting, okay, which was called by the King Louis XVI. Then only they will discuss each other. After that, king had the power to increase the tax. Understand? Here we will see that which could then pass his proposal for now taxes. The State General was a political body to which the 3 states sent their representatives. So here first we will see that 5th May in 1789. What is happening in 5th May? King had called the meeting 5th May 1789. Okay, why king had called the meeting? To increase the tax. Here Louis XVI called together an assembly of the State General to pass the proposal for new taxes. Meeting at hall in Versailles. Where the meeting was called? Versailles. Versailles is the prominent important city of France. There was a hall. Okay, in the hall the king had called the meeting. Okay, from the first state, 300 representatives were attend. From first state, 300 representatives. Second state, 300 representatives. And the third states, 600 representatives were attend the general meeting, State General meeting. Okay, first state from the clergy's community, 300 selective representatives were attend. Second states from the nobilities, those who were the ruling class, there are 300 representatives were attend, and the from third states, 600 representatives. Okay, they were attend the meeting. So in the State General meeting, the first state and plus second states, they were sitting, okay, in 2 rows by facing each other. This line first state and this line second states. They were sitting the facing each other, first state and second state. But the third state community peoples, representatives, they were allowed to sit the back, they were not allowed to sit. They were standing in the back of the meeting hall. Understand? They were not allowed to sit. They were standing the back of the meeting hall. But first state and second states, they both states were sitting the rows in facing each other. But third states, they were standing back of the meeting hall. And in this state general meeting, the women, children, artisans, they were not allowed to enter into the meeting. Understand? The women, children and artisans, they were not allowed to enter into the state general meeting. But those who were the 600 representatives are attend the state general meeting, they were carry out, okay, or they were bringing the grievances, letters of the third states peoples. What were the demands? What were the grievances? The third states people's representatives, they were bringing to the king. Understand? It was written in our book, 40,000 grievances letters they were brought. Who? The third state representatives. Understand? So it was there during the Louis XV. During the Louis XV, so it was said that the date is, I think, not given, but 1614. In the year of 1614, Louis XV had called the meeting and increased the tax. After that, second time, after I think so 100 years, so 1789, the King Louis XVI had called the meeting for the increase the tax. Okay, as earlier or before, who had increased the tax? Louis XV, when it was cost 1614. After that, 1789, it means whenever the king was wanted to call the meeting, then only they were calling. It was not happen the every month or every year. Understand? So here, before system was that first state had one vote. It means one group, one vote. Understand? During the time of Louis XV, one state, first state had one vote, second state had one vote, and third state had one vote. Understand? 300 peoples, there was no 300 votes. 300 peoples, this is a group, they were considered the group, one vote, it was considered the one vote. And the second state, 300 representatives, it was considering the one vote. And the third state, 600 peoples, it was considering the one vote. If the three communities, three groups, okay, three states, they were agree to increase the tax, then only tax was increasing. Understand? The king had no power to increase the tax alone by his wish or will. That's why he had called the state general meeting. So in this time, king had a proposal, the same system, which was introduced by the Louis XV. But this time what happened? The third state peoples, the 600 representatives, they do not agree with the proposal of King 16. They denied the old system. What they demand? Do you know that? No, this time the one person will be one vote. It means from the first state the 300 votes, second states plus 300 votes, and third state 600 votes will be there. Understand? So here king rejected their proposal. Whose? The third state people's proposal. King had rejected. But the third state peoples, they demanded, no, This time, so one person will be one vote. Then whose vote will be majority? The third state people's votes will be majority. That's why when the king had rejected their proposal with the aggressive, they walked out from the meeting hall. Who were they? Third state peoples. Who were the representatives on behalf of the third state? They were rejected the meeting and walked out from the meeting hall, and they went to the open tennis ground which was at the Versailles. Which was a Versailles. And they went there and they gathered themselves and announced their union or organization in the name of a National Assembly. National Assembly. Okay, what they give that name? National Assembly. Here a question may arise, what is the National Assembly and who formed the National Assembly? Understand? So, in the meeting, when the king proposal, one community, one group has to be one vote, but third state peoples, they rejected the proposal of king, but third state peoples, they the proposal, the one person has to be one vote, but the king had rejected their proposal. After that, what happened? With the angry mood, they walked out, they came out from the meeting hall and they went to the open tennis ground in Versailles and they gathered themselves and declared their union in the name of National Assembly. This is called the National Assembly. Understand up to here? What is the National Assembly? The third states peoples, they reject the meeting hall, the proposal of the king, and they walked out with the angry and they went to the open tennis ground. They gathered themselves 600. How many? 600 representatives on behalf of the third states. They gathered there. Understand? And they declared themselves in the National Assembly. Understand? And they took the oaths. What? They took the oath until the constitution will not draft for the France. They will not disperse. They will not move anywhere. Understand? And in the 1791, they started to draft the constitution for the France. They started to write or drafted the constitution for the France. Who drafted? The National Assembly. National Assembly. What is the National Assembly? The representatives from the third states, those who rejected the proposal of the Louis XVI, and they came out with the angry. They gathered themselves in the open tennis ground. They declared themselves in the National Assembly. 1791, they started to draft. Draft means to write the constitution for the France. Understand? In the same time, there was no any single women. So where were the women at that time? So they were at home. They were looking after their children, their parents, and they were managing their families, and they were standing in the shops, in front of the shops for a long time. Still, they were not getting the bread with the high prices during this time. Understand? So when all the gents from the third states, they were gathered in the National Assembly, the women, they were looking after, they take care the children, their grandfathers. Okay, they were managing their families during this time. So what happened? Next we will see that June 1789, National Assembly was formed, and this National Assembly was leading by the two prominent persons. Understand? Two prominent persons. Who were the leaders of this National Assembly? Number one is the Abhishek, he was belongs to the second states nobility class. Okay, he was the nobility person, Abhishek, and second person was that Mirabeau. They were the leaders of the National Assembly. See here, they were the exception not to pay the tax. They were belongs to the first state and the second states. They were enjoying the special privileges by their birth. Still, while they were supporting and they were taking the leadership of the National Assembly, they realized that the which was the taxes were imposed by the state over the peasants, it was not a good. Understand? And the right to vote system. Those who were property and at the age of 25, at least they could pay the 3 days wages to the state. Only they were eligible to right to vote. Okay, that's why this opposing, they support the National Assembly. Who were they? Abhishek and Mirabeau. They are the leaders of the National Assembly, although they were belongs to the first state and the second state. Understand? So this is the outbreak of the revolution in France. What were the conditions? First condition was that the empty treasury in France. Number 2, subsistence crisis. Number 3, the increase of the prices of the food grains. These were the main reasons for outbreak the revolution in France. Okay, this is the process, and again afterwards we will study that when the France is completed, National Assembly was completed to draft the constitution, how the king was accepted, how the powers of the kings was limited, limitation. Thank you so much. Tomorrow we will see that further topic. Okay, now just you line up and go for your breakfast.